Hi everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to spend 30 minutes talking about how I made the jump from being a marketer to a producer and what I've learned in the process. So welcome to How to Become a Producer. Before I move on, I'd like to tackle a couple of disclaimers. This talk, the experiences, advice or recommendations that I provide are based on my own experiences. So it may not work for everybody. If you look how you got into your current role and compare that with your peers, they're most likely very different stories. Experience is the key word here, as there are many factors that can affect your journey. Secondly, you do not have to do everything that I say to become a producer. And similarly, if you follow this talk to a T, it does not guarantee you a producer role. We each have different skills and experiences that we can leverage in different ways to transition, and I encourage you to reflect on your strengths during this presentation. The aim of this talk is to provide an insight into what I had to do, learn, and navigate to get where I am today, and share that knowledge with you. Cool. This is me. My name is Ari. I'm an associate producer at Sumo Sheffield. You might also recognise me from my previous role in the Sumo Group marketing team. My background is primarily in marketing, but I also have an English literature degree, which I got in 2020, which from memory seemed like quite a boring year. Cool. So what inspired me to create this talk today was that just under a year ago, I started my position as AP. When I had announced that I was changing roles, I was really surprised by the amount of people who had reached out and wanted to know how I managed this. I didn't realise that so many people were trying to make the same leap I did. This then inspired me to take all of my learnings and put it into a more formal format, and not one of my extremely long Teams messages with 20 million links in them. So let's start at the very beginning. In my marketing role, I had spoken to a few producers and I really enjoyed learning more about the role from them. So I Googled associate producer roles near me, as you do, and pulled up a very interesting looking job spec. As I gazed upon the various responsibilities and requirements, I started to feel a bit weird. I literally thought, I literally can't do any of these. I don't even know what half these responsibilities are even talking about. Like, what is t-shirt sizing? What is a sprint? I had no experience and therefore no chance of getting this role. Cue sad violin. But while this deterred me massively from just outright applying, I decided to find out how I was going to get the skills and experience I need to become a producer. While I'm still fairly early on in my career, my experience getting into production felt like one of the hardest things I'd ever done, mainly because there just isn't enough information out there, and this is something that I want to change. So, my journey starts at SDC, unsurprisingly. I watched 2 talks that completely blew me away in the way they talked about production. I encourage you all to watch these talks, the first one being Breaking Down Team Silos for Inclusion and Productivity by Zoe Kerno and Joe Nichols, and Don't Panic, An Earthling's Guide to a Career in Production with Daniel Stahl. I strongly encourage you to watch both talks, which are available in Dojo or on Sumo Digital's YouTube channel. So these talks kind of lead nicely onto my next point, which is defining your why. In hindsight, I wish I defined my why very early on in my journey, as it is a great motivator because the journey ahead, it's long, tiring, very difficult. So I hope to do that with you now. So, out of all the amazing SDC talks, why did I go to those 2 talks? Similarly, why did you come to this talk? What about the idea of becoming a producer or production excites you? If you know this, hold on to this, write it down and remember it. If you're not too sure about your answer, I hope that through this presentation, as you come to learn more about production, your why becomes clearer. So, sit back, relax, let's talk production. I'm going to start off with defining the producer role, then moving on to defining the skills needed for a production role and how to get them or develop them. Then I'm going to talk about mentorship and its power to change lives. And finally, share some resources with you that helped me, which I hope will help you. So let's begin. What is a producer? So from general Googling, which is what I did at the very start when I knew no producers and yeah, I was on my own, this was the only way I could get information. So what did Google yield to me? Producers are responsible for ensuring the project is delivered on time, within budget, within scope, and at a high quality. Therefore, producers are responsible for scheduling work to ensure the project meets deadlines and expectations. And producers mitigate risks that can delay the project, increase cost, or reduce quality. Just from saying all of that, I don't even feel like I understood what I just said. This is so high level and kind of vague. And when I was starting off, this was not useful when trying to figure out what exactly producers do. So when I asked a producer from my old team what they reckon a producer is, they said professional cat herder, because people just be doing whatever they want and they weren't scheduled to do that. What I found with either definition is that they're both true, but still don't quite tell you what producers do in a way that is easy to understand. So, what is a producer? I think rather than looking to job specs and online definitions, I think the best way to view producers is through the problems that they solve. Producers plan the full life cycle of a game, from conception to post-production. Each producer manages a team or more, usually throughout the entire game development process, and plans the work for those teams. They identify and mitigate risks to those teams in the project. For example, like with resourcing, do we have enough people to deliver what is planned? Or with budgeting, are we going over budget, for example? And delays. Did something take too long, then stretch the timescales out, and now it's affected other people? Producers map any dependencies that their teams may have on others and manage them. So they're asking, whose work do I need in order to do my own? And who needs my work in order to do their own? Producers work with their teams and within the project to continuously improve processes, workflows, and document best practice. So, for example, if I have an art team who are receiving requests via Teams messages and emails and in meetings, and they find it quite overwhelming, a producer might find or create a request page that people need to submit their requests into so that the art team can triage them and allocate the work in a much more efficient way. They enable cross-team collaboration and communication. Finally, producers work with their teams to support their well-being and advocate for them. So they do temperature testing of their teams to measure their satisfaction and morale, or support a team member if they're experiencing any hardship. This is a general overview of what I think producers do, but there are additional contextual factors like the type of producer affecting the kind of work that they do. So, for example, you could be a producer who works for a publisher, or a producer who works specifically in development. And under those two types are additional responsibilities. So as a publishing producer, you'll need knowledge of publishing platforms and licensing, knowledge of market trends, patterns, customer needs in international markets. You'll need to be able to collaborate with marketing and on PR campaigns. And if you're in development, you might need to manage the budget from a developer's perspective. You might support the delivery of one specific part of the game. You might organise playtests, that kind of thing. So I hope I've given you a much clearer definition of what producers do and the kind of problems that they solve. So let's move on. I'm going to break down the essential skills needed to be a producer. So here are 12 general skills needed for the role. I'm not going to read them all out, don't worry. I've listed all the skills that I've seen either written in job specs or have been mentioned by people I know or from my own experience. This is a lot, but don't fret. You might have noticed some of these skills could be ones that you already have. For example, written and verbal communication skills or collaboration. But then you might see a couple where you think, okay, what even is agile methodology? Let's take another view of these skills. At an even higher level, these skills can be separated into two groups, essentially the management of people and the management of time and workload, or in other words, relationship and stakeholder management and organisation. Right, so from the list of skills, you might feel like, okay, I definitely do this in my current role, okay, I definitely need to work on this. So how do you use your experience with something that you've used before in a production setting, or how can you show that in an interview? Let's talk transferable skills. Right, how do you leverage transferable skills when you don't have production experience? So transferable skills are skills that you already have that apply to the role. And a key to leveraging them is identifying what the skill is and understanding its use in a production context. So let's take prioritization skills as an example. This is a 4-step process, starting with noting the current times you use prioritization in your role. Do you use it when you manage your own workload? Do you use it when you manage multiple projects? Take some time to reflect on how you use it in your role. Then, how do producers use prioritization in their role? Given the definitions that I gave a little bit earlier, we know that producers schedule work for teams, so producers must use prioritization to schedule more important work first and less important work later on, as an example. Next, why is prioritization so important to producers? It was certainly important enough to put on the job description, so why would they do that? One of the reasons why prioritization is so important because it allows you to problem solve when things go wrong and manage expectations. Prioritization is also a good way of mitigating risks, which is a core part of the producer's role. And finally, give an example of a prioritization process for a producer. For example, one process is something called backlog refinement, which in a very simplified way is essentially reviewing upcoming tasks for the team and assessing their priority to determine when and who works on said task. So, as I've mentioned, this is just one example of looking at how you can make your transferable skill work for you, and I encourage you to try this on another skill that you've identified. Right, so we've looked at transferable skills. Now let's talk about the skills that you may not have and now need to know how to upskill. 1 second. Cool. So upskilling is the process of learning a new skill or developing a current one to minimize skill gaps. This is also a 4-parter. So define the skill you want to develop. Identify how producers use this skill and why. Seek further opportunities to practice this skill and keep note of how and when you have been using this skill. So let's take an example like using project management software. Using the information from the last slide, these are the kinds of questions you could be thinking about if you were wanting to upskill your project management experience and knowledge. So the first one being, what software do production use? I've used Jira, Azure DevOps, or ADO for short. But across the board, production use different types of software, and it's worth looking into. How do producers use project management software and why? A way of answering this question is by looking at what problems production are wanting to solve using the software. What are they trying to make more efficient? What are they trying to streamline? How are they sharing information, etc.? If this is applicable to you, identify any similarities between the way you use project management software and the way production use it. So when I was in marketing, I used Monday.com. So I would try and find the similarities between how we use Monday versus how we use Jira. And that was a great way to show my experience, and also leads on to this next one, which is what can I incorporate into my current role going forward? Finding out how producers use Jira influenced the way that I tried to use Monday.com. And, if possible, this could be something that you could discuss with your manager, as they can help incorporate using the software into your role in a way that would be useful to you. Are there courses or talks to develop me further? What information is already out there that can boost your understanding of the software? Cool. For some of you, it's not been possible to get a lot of leadership opportunities. For some of you, you may not have managerial experience. So to build this experience, it may be a bit harder. You can still use the upskilling slides to incorporate some leadership experience in your role, such as leading a project within your team, or even within like an extracurricular sense. You can lead a team of people outside of work, for example, if you're doing a game jam. But as I've mentioned in a previous slide, producers are also advocates for their team members' well-being and their satisfaction. This is something that is a bit harder to just upskill in, and it's what I'll be diving into next in this next section. So if I want to be a better advocate for people or handle conflict within a team, I found that to develop that side of my leadership skills was to look at the way managers and people in senior leadership positions advocated for me. I would look within my own educational background, such as professors, or within my own family and previous managers. I'd identify the times that I felt like someone stood up for me or made me feel part of the team, just any really positive moment that boosted my general satisfaction in the team. Taking those actions that those leaders had done for me, I was able to figure out what values and behaviours I wanted to embody when I was taking on a leadership role. I found that the best leaders for me were the ones who were great listeners, open and transparent, hugely empathetic, and always made time for me when I said it was important. So, what makes a good leader? I'm sure you've met good leaders. I hope you've met good leaders. Identify them in your life and think about what they did that inspired you. Did they just listen, or were they imparting some really good advice and you thought they were very wise? Then lay out their behaviour and values. Did they get you into a meeting room and make you feel safe enough to share how you felt about something? Did they give you an opportunity to voice your opinion? Could you give them criticism without them taking offence? Take the three or four most important behaviours or values and get them down, and try to embody those in your role. And it doesn't even need to be limited to your role. This could be something that you show in your personal life too. So, next section. Throughout this presentation, I might have used some jargon or spoke about a concept that literally made you go, huh? Is she going to explain this? Well, let me tell you a little story. When I was looking at associate producer roles or assistant producer roles, one of the responsibilities is able to manage age rating process for games. I was like, producers do that? What? I didn't even know what the process could possibly be. I've never seen it before. Didn't know producers did that. My cursory Google searches just did not yield anything that could form a useful answer. So in this next portion of my presentation, I'm going to be talking about mentorship and just how it influenced the way I understood and learned about production, as well as being one of, if not the best way to plug any knowledge gaps. So let's get into it. You might have heard this phrase before. You don't know what you don't know. The only way I was going to know, if Google didn't, was by asking an expert. Someone who's already a producer at a higher level who can explain all the concepts in all the contexts and guide me. This was absolutely crucial to my transition, as I had too many knowledge gaps that I had to fill. I didn't know how many other areas of production there were because I also just didn't know that they existed. So, again, you don't know, so ask. What is the role of mentorship? You can look to experts to help bridge your knowledge gap. They can also share resources with you that you didn't even know existed. An example being that I didn't know Atlassian, who own Jira, run their own courses to help people upskill for free, and I still use their courses to this day. Mentors can also show you examples of production practices and processes. For example, I asked my mentor, what does risk management look like for a producer? And my manager showed me a template of a risk register and all the different things that can go into it, such as its priority, how you mitigate the risks that are there, and resolutions. She taught me about the different things to look out for in a risk register, which I found very helpful. And finally, mentors are there as a soundboard to test your knowledge. I remember finding a GI Biz article about a day in the life of an art producer. And I thought, wow, every art producer is exactly like this. And this is each of their days. And my mentor was able to add nuance to the information and gave me if you're this kind of an art producer, this is what will happen in your day. If you're this kind of art producer, you're like this. If you're a technical producer, this is how it's different. And it was so good to have contextual knowledge to help bolster my understanding of production. I could not talk about mentorship without doing a massive shout out to Limit Break. Limit Break is a games industry only mentorship scheme which matches underrepresented folks in the industry with people with many years of experience. And I'm currently in my 3rd cycle with Limit Break, having a blast, and I cannot recommend them enough. Right, we're coming towards the end of this talk, but next bit, we're going to talk about all the resources that I use. Naturally, I haven't just put 25 million links onto a slide. If you use this QR code, it links to my Google Doc that has all the exact resources that I've used and recommend. It's got books, it's got articles, it's got links to all the talks that I've used. And crucially, when I was interviewing for an assistant or associate producer role, sometimes studios would include a task, and one such task I placed into my resource document. So if you're interviewing and you want to get a bit ahead and you want to prepare, it might be worth having a go at the task that's in my Google Doc. I've also included the answers for you to check against. Don't worry, I'll put this QR code up again at the end of my presentation. Cool, so let's have a little whiz through what I've been talking about for the past 25, nearly 30 minutes. Define your why. At the start of the presentation, I asked you, why are you here? I hope it's been easier to answer this question, or at least clearer to answer. Hold on to this, this will be your motivation as things progress. And then we looked at what a producer actually does. We've then moved on to talking about the kind of skills you would need to showcase if you want to move into production, what you need to do to have that skill if you don't have the production experience. And we also looked at transferable skills. We looked at the skills that you were missing but wanted to develop, so upskilling. I might have said that twice, apologies. We also looked at learning to lead a team and embodying the values of the leaders in our lives. We also looked at what to do when you don't know something and it's not easily Googleable, so mentorship. And finally, some resources. Before I leave you today, I hope if there's one thing that you could take away from this talk, it's to be confident, to have faith in your skills, have faith in your ability to shine. And if you can't be confident, just fake it till you make it. You got this. I believe in you. Thank you. Any questions? Here's the QR code for you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Q&A section of this talk. My name is Ellie. I'll be your room host for this session. Thanks so much to Ari for sharing all your wisdom with us. That was a fab talk. Thank you very much. We've already had some questions through, so we'll start working our way through those. But if anyone does have any more, please do pop them in the chat and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Ari, hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your talk. That was amazing. I'm going to just make a move going through some of these questions. So first question to get started, nice and easy one that comes from Tessa. What is it that you like the most about being a producer?
Oh, wow. So yeah, definitely the people. I've got to work with some incredible minds, really, really talented producers who are some of the best mentors I've ever had in my very short working career. But yeah, they're awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Questions are coming through now. It's hard being popular, Ari. Another great question that comes in from Melody. What has been your biggest surprise since transferring into being a producer? And a follow-up question to that, or any particular challenge?
Biggest surprise. I think there's not really been any surprises. I did a lot of research before getting into the role, so I had a good idea of what to expect. But the challenges are definitely getting more game development knowledge and understanding about the game development process. In my previous role, I was definitely adjacent to game devs, but not like fully like immersed in it. So learning from other people has been a little bit of a challenge, but got a great team, always willing to help. So that's been great.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And I guess I have kind of a question that is to that, is that if someone was to kind of take a first step into production, I know you said that you were game dev adjacent. What does that first step kind of look like? Is it different for everyone? What was your experience?
So definitely, well, I guess, yeah, for me, it was figure out what it actually is. Because there were some surprising things about production that I was like, oh, right, I might not like that. I remember feeling this way when someone mentioned, oh, yeah, you might do some conflict resolution. And I was like, I do not like confrontation. But it's only a very, very small part of the role. So yeah, definitely look into it, whatever game dev role you're interested in, and like really understand what it is you're getting yourself into.
Amazing. Luke says, great presentation, Ari. Nice. He'd like to know, during your mentorships, what has been a standout piece of information that has stuck with you?
Oh, interesting. Don't know. I think it's that bit about the age rating process, which I hope I mentioned in my talk. It was pre-recorded, sorry, a few weeks ago. But I hope I mentioned the age rating process and how I was completely sort of like, oh wow, producers do age rating? What? And that's what stuck with me, because that's what led to that thought process of, if you don't know what you don't know, ask. Because yeah, there were so many things I didn't know. So that's definitely something that stuck with me.
Nice, thank you very much. Nathan would like to know, what do you consider your biggest achievement since moving over to production?
I achieved? No, I'm joking. Probably just sort of the way I've been getting stuck in. I don't know if this is like a self-horn toot, but I think there's been a lot of challenges on a project that I was on, and I think just getting stuck in, just doing the work, and yeah, there was some complaining, but yeah, just getting into it.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Obviously, we used to work together in marketing, so I've known you for a little while now, and I know that you have been passionate about games forever. What would be the one thing that you would tell yourself from 5 years ago to kind of help you where you are today?
Definitely talk to more people. I found that in marketing, we're a great little bubble. I remember all our chats on all the big meetings, and it's all brilliant. But I also think that our understanding of things and our perspective of things, especially in different areas of game development, increases, and you become sort of more knowledgeable about the processes and the industry itself by talking to more people. So yeah, I wish I talked to more people. I wish I reached out to, not strangers, but other people in Sumo. Just was like, I'd love to know a bit more about your role. Can we have a chat? That would definitely have been something I would recommend to do.
Yeah, definitely. Melody has another question. Is there something that you wish you'd had more of looking back at when you did first move over, whether it's just more information or more support in a certain area?
Um, I wish I just went a bit more gung ho on the whole process. I was very on the fence the first 6 months because I wasn't really sure. Because I really liked my role in marketing, and I was like, I don't really want to. Yeah, if you've got a good, if you've got a good thing, don't like change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Whatever the saying is, you know what I mean. So yeah. So I wish I just went all in and did all the work that I needed to do, because the process probably would have been a lot faster, and I also would have learned a lot more, a lot quicker, if I wasn't just on the fence on all the time.
Yeah, definitely. And is there anything that, I guess, as soon as you moved into production, that you were like, oh, this is what I expected? Or was there anything that was really outside of the realm of what you were expecting?
Um, I didn't realize. I understood that a part of production meant, people management, but there were some days where I'm just like non-stop talking to people about all sorts of things, and I really enjoy that. It doesn't feel like I'm doing work, but you actually are doing work. You're building the relationships with your team, and that's really important and key. But I was like, I didn't realize, it's like sometimes it's a bit of a therapy session, sometimes it's just, so what's going on in the roadmap?
Yeah.
It's a great variety, a lot of chat. Yeah, didn't realize that would happen.
Nice. Brogan would like to know, now that because you've been in this role for what, 9 months more now, just about?
Yes.
Now that you've kind of gotten into the role, what do you feel is the next career challenge that you think you'll be facing? And a further up question that is there anywhere else within production that you're maybe interested in exploring?
Next career challenge. I guess it would just be to move up the ladder. I know I'm still fairly early on, so it's not going to happen anytime soon, but I know I've been seeking mentorship currently within Sumo and with Limit Break to make that happen. So I guess, yeah, moving up the ladder a little bit would be the next move. I've forgotten the second half of that question, sorry.
That's okay. It was if there were any other kind of areas of production that you're interested in exploring.
So I've worked a little bit with art, I've worked a little bit with game design. It would be nice to work with coders. Potentially. We'll see where the tides take us. But yeah, that would definitely be a next step.
Great, thank you very much. Sachin would like to ask, and I'm aware this is an open talk, so no project names here, please. In your producer experience, is it usual to have one project as your sole focus at a time? And how does that compare to more of a broader scope, like you would have been working with in marketing?
So as a development producer, I think it's more common to work within one project. But if you were on the publishing side, you probably work with multiple projects at a time. So I'd say from my experience, yeah, it is normal to work on one project at a time. How does that compare? Sorry, compared to what?
Compared to like your experience in marketing. So obviously in a marketing team, you'll be working on lots of projects, a little bit of lots of games, whereas producer is very much kind of streamlined to one project.
So I've got like Dory memory. Yeah. So in marketing, definitely working on multiple projects, but it was more about working on multiple campaigns and projects. So in that case, it's like a lot different, although it's all under kind of the same umbrella, which is more recruitment style stuff.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. We've mentioned mentors a couple of times in this call, but Luke would like to know, I'd love to know, working with many different producers and mentors, what makes a great producer in your opinion?
Ooh, I think there's a lot of things that can go into this. The best producers I've seen so far are the ones who are very level-headed and have a great temperament, able to just take challenges and know that it's stressful and know that it's probably annoying people, but still be calm and like, let's get through this. They're also great listeners, the ones that just can hear it and it's like, look, I get you, and they make the time for you to listen to you. That's, I think, what makes a great producer. Even the most organized producers, aren't always the best ones. I think people might think that, oh, we just need to be organized to be great, but I think being organized is probably part of the bigger picture there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think great listener, and I've already forgotten the other thing I said.
Do you think, a follow-up question from me, do you think that you brought any unique skills to the role that you've maybe gained in other experiences that maybe other producers on the team didn't have? It's a hard question to put you on the spot, but I'm curious.
Am I not self-aware? No, I don't know. I'll come back to you. I need to think.
No problem. Simon has got a question. Where can I get a professional cat herder badge?
I am requesting the budget right now. Don't worry, Simon.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And then we're moving into our last couple of questions. Question that comes from Rachel. Do you have any particular resources, free or paid, or thought leaders to recommend that help you make this transition?
Yes, absolutely. I guess the QR code is not up anymore, but there is a bit.ly link that leads to my production resources that I use to help me make the transition. Thought leaders, that's a good question. I actually don't know if I found any. No one comes to mind, but my mentors do come to mind, people within Sumo who have spent the time to teach. But yeah, I'll come back to thought leaders.
Grand, thank you very much. And yeah, those resources that Ari mentioned, I'll pop those in the chat at the end of the session for anyone to access. She's very handily and very organizedly put a bit.ly link together, and we would expect nothing less. I think we are coming into the end of our questions. So I guess that's all left to say is thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. If you do have any other questions or you think of any, please do reach out to Ari. I know that I'm definitely going to be, and she'll be able to get back to you. A huge thank you to everyone for joining us today, for everyone working behind the scenes to make sure this stream runs so nice and smooth, and for everyone's preparation and getting us to this point. And of course to Ari for her amazing talk. So have an amazing day, everyone. Enjoy it, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Ellie. Cheers.
No worries. Bye.